Here we are, guys, the grid, getting ready for some red hot steamy Relics action with the reigning defending champion of the Relics,
Spudicus. I am
Mr. Spud. Do you think you can defend your crown today?
No. At least come third so I can get a shiny certificate and I'll be happy.
I've seen your list though, it looks pretty nasty.
It's alright.
For objective scenarios, I think you might be alright.
Yeah, if it is then.
Well, time to go inside.
You actually filming?
Yep.
No, I'm not done. I've not put my slap on yet.
Oh, have we got any top secret Relics information inside this laptop?
Yes, that's why it's staying closed.
We'll try and sneak that open later.
Got some new models there, though.
Uh-oh. What's Spud got his hands on here?
On my delicious models. Rubies.
Yeah, they do have curves, don't they?
That's how we like them.
Just the way Spud likes it.
Yeah.
What was the design brief for those?
I can't remember. Big boobs.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that, can you? Okay, so here is the list I took with me to the tournament. You were allowed to pick 2 different lists and then choose which one you wanted to use at the beginning of the game when you saw which faction you were facing. So with that in mind, the common things between both lists are the Dominie with Fireball and Distraction, which is very nice, very expensive as well. The Fury with Heal and Cripple. One of each of the Dedicatus, the Tormentor and a Degener. And then the flexible elements of the list, there's either 2 Auxilium Concursus or 2 Auxilium Medicae. So I just switch in whichever unit I think is more appropriate for the game. Against Pretannons, for example, I would take Medicae because I expect to be taking a lot of damage while I close the distance. Whereas against Orknar, I would probably rather have the Concursus so I don't get overwhelmed by their sheer numbers in melee. For the first game, as you can see here, it's Newham versus Newham. This game was against the gentleman known as Biscuit. I daren't ask how he came by that name. I'm sure there's some terrible story to go with it. But as you can see, there are 4 markers there on the table. These are, if you start an activation while within melee range of one, then you turn it to your side. And there are victory points associated with having both of them on your own side, or having one or both on the opponent's side. Also a victory point for controlling each deployment zone. So, it was the battle of the distraction really, because my Dominie has distraction and he had 2 Fury with distraction as their only additional spells. So really whoever went first was just distracting something, and it was usually me. I usually got the Dominie first, distracted one of his Fury, or his unit of 2 Tormentors, which would have been quite nasty, since they ignore defense, and that's kind of what Newham rely on a lot of the time. There wasn't a whole lot of killing going on, because a lot of things were being distracted, and there was a lot of things with defense, or a lot of healing machines. He had a couple of Medicae as well at the back there. At the end it came down to, we both had our portals, or whatever they were, activated on our own side. And then as everyone was stuck in fighting at the end, I managed to get my Fury and redeploy her all the way to his left, so on the right side of the screen, his portal there, and I was able to activate it and get that, and then I was able to redeploy someone back into my deployment zone in the final turn. So I was able to control my deployment zone, both my own portal thingies and one of his, which meant that I won 3-1 on victory points, I believe, because he got 1 for controlling his deployment zone. I got 1 for controlling both of my portal thingies, 1 for controlling one of his, and 1 for my deployment zone. So that was a very good start. So I was expecting to be on the top tournament table, as they say, in the next round. You can see here a bit of a better close-up of his models. They are quite nice looking. Some of the pictures were just on my phone. I was putting them up on Facebook throughout the tournament, and then I took a few more high-quality ones when I actually remembered. So as you can see here, this is at the end of the game, so we had quite a lot of stuff left there. This is after I've removed my stuff from the table. So he was kind of compact in that little area there, which may have cost him because he didn't get to advance far enough to claim any of the objectives on my side. Next up, I was against the mighty Spud and his Orknar. Now the scenario here There were 4 exploding crystal thingamajigs. I'm sure there is an official name for these things, but I can't remember where I put the sheet. But anyway, if you are near them, at the end of the turn, they explode and do damage to people within a certain range. It's randomly determined range, so you want to get as far away from them as possible. So the safe point, I thought, would be in the middle of the table, because you get victory points in this one for killing the opposing commander and also controlling table quarters. So I thought if I get to the very centre of the table here with all my stuff and just spread it out around the centre, then I'd be able to occupy all 4 table quarters with something, and also, because they're all grouped up in the middle, I would prevent his Orknar from outmanoeuvring me. If I have everything tightly packed together, he's not going to catch anything on its own and overwhelm it. So that was my game plan. As it actually happened, it kind of went to plan, but one thing I didn't really factor in when I was setting up. In fact, you can see me here, smiling with my setup there. We decided that those things that look like fields were actually difficult terrain, which made it incredibly hard for me to manoeuvre most of my stuff, especially because one of Spud's Orknar has an ability where it can create a patch of difficult terrain as well, so that whole area was basically plugged up, and I had trouble advancing. So by the end of the game I only just got to the middle, so I couldn't control all the table quarters. I did manage to kill quite a few of his things though. There was more killing in this game than in the last game, but he did actually manage to wear down and kill off my commander, the Dominie. The exploding crystals did more damage to him, I believe, because I managed to distract some of his units and keep them nearby to them. So he did lose quite a few things from that. I lost 1 or 2 things, I believe, not too much though. But because he killed my commander, and it was fairly even, the table quarters, I believe he had won by 3 victory points to 2. I believe that is correct. And I was reliably informed that Spud won his first game by a slightly wider margin than I did, so I'm pretty confident that this puts him at the top of the rankings going into game 3. But I'm still up there with a chance. At this point I'm going to show you a little clip of Spud posing with some stormtroopers, because you know how much he loves Space Trek.
I love Star Trek.
Do you want to pose with them? Now on to game 3. And I was against a very tall fellow by the name of Brad with his Britannons. And for this scenario there were 7 shards on the table. However, for the first 4 turns, one of them, randomly determined, will explode and be removed from play. And if you're holding it, then it does a huge amount of damage to you. And if you're nearby to it, then it does a slightly smaller amount of damage to you. So it's a risk if you want to pick them up early. However, I thought, you know what, I really need quite a lot of victory points if I'm going to catch up Spud and possibly win this thing. So in the first couple of turns I just jumped straight on as many shards as I could, which resulted in most of them exploding on the model carrying it. I don't believe I actually lost anyone to the explosion, but they did take damage, and then of course I was in a more vulnerable position. I spent most of the game distracting his troopers, which is my usual technique against Britannons if they're in a big group like that, because they do get quite expensive then. And that's also the Sergeant Major loses a lot of his usefulness if the troopers are distracted. So that's a very nice tactic there. I did make one mistake here. Well, I don't know if you could really call it a mistake, because I wasn't aware of how good the Grenadiers were in melee. I put my Dejena too close to them, and then they charged him and just ate him for breakfast. I thought they were more of a shooty kind of unit, but apparently they are really good at fighting as well, so I'm going to watch out for them next time. His marksmen did quite a bit of damage. I lost a lot in this game. I did have 1 shard left at the end, which I used to hide behind some terrain. I think he got 1 shard as well. I distracted him with the Dominie in the final turn to prevent him picking up another one. So I think we had 1 each, and we also controlled our own deployment zones. Because I basically ran all my stuff back to the deployment zone once I got a couple of shards. And then unfortunately most of them blew up. But I did have 1 left, so it was 2-2, the final score in that one. So I was not too confident of winning, but I thought maybe I could get 2nd place, depending on how the other game's going with the high scorers. I'm pretty sure if Spud got at least a point or two in his final game, then he would be able to be ahead of me in the rankings, but I didn't know how everyone else was doing at this point. So I'm going to show you some footage now of the other games that were going on, because my last game finished quite soon, because a lot of stuff died, so we kind of breezed through it, and there was a lot of distracting going on. So, here you go.
Hello everybody. Thank you for coming today. I know they're down 5 times. We should do them in reverse order. Taking 3rd place at the Wargamers All Against Cancer at the Grid competition, we have Andy Ransom. So there's your... There you go, boy.
Look at that. Lovely.
In 2nd place, and doing a very good job at it too, we have Biscuit. There you go, boss. And the winner of the day, by a good couple of VP, I'm afraid to say, Spud.
Thank you.
So there's your 1st place name. There's also your Relics medal.
Thank you.
And your Connor Club.
The one and only.
Yeah, it's not actually. I've got a box for him, so don't worry.
Alright, thank you. Cheers.
Alright. So again, thanks for coming out. You enjoyed it?
Yes. Yeah.
We'll see about sorting something else out soon, maybe in Sheffield. Hey, Mum.
And here's me posing with the wonderful 3rd place certificate, which I'm fairly happy with that. I think my list could use some tweaks, maybe. I'm thinking instead of just having everything as an individual, maybe get more of the same thing. Because in my Newham collection I kind of have one of everything at the moment. So I'm thinking if I want to give myself a few more options, I may have to get a couple of the same model, just so I can have some bigger units. So they've got a bit more chance of surviving, I think. I'll have to play around with it and see what I can come up with. But anyway, the tournament was an excellent emotional adventure. It was a very nice atmosphere in there, everyone was friendly. I don't believe anyone got into any arguments, there certainly weren't any fist fights that I personally witnessed. Maybe when there's luxury yachts on the line. I'm sure that's going to be a couple of tournaments away though. I think Tor Gaming still building themselves up regarding prizes. Last time it was a piece of wood, this time it was certificates and a model. So maybe next time the luxury yacht will come out. Probably not, but it might start off with just a rubber dinghy, and then we'll work our way up to the luxury yacht, maybe via canoe, speedboat. I think we could get there.